Yes, the quarterbacks, they have been the big topic of conversation over the last few months. Our resident QB, Brady Quinn, ranking his top 5 here. Bryce Young leading the charge on his list, as well as many others out there. He's not only seen a lot of these guys in action, but he's been studying their talents in preparation for the draft as we welcome in Brady Quinn himself here. So Brady, no prospects are perfect.
No.
None of these guys are perfect. They all come with their own collections of pros and cons. So I want to break down some of those crucial evaluation points when we look at these top quarterbacks. And we're going to start with Bryce Young. And I have a feeling that we all know what your con's going to be.
Well, it's the con that everyone else is using. But again, to me, it's not as big of a concern as it is for everyone else, and that's his size, because his height was similar to Kyler Murray. I think the bigger concern more is the sleight of frame and looking at his weight, and can he take the amount of hits that he's going to have to endure in a 17-game regular season, and that doesn't obviously include the playoffs. That's a greater concern. The height's not an issue because the majority, or more than the majority of players, are played from shotgun. You're not under center like you used to be, and it's also easier for shorter quarterbacks to find throwing lanes, especially as we've seen RPOs, the run pass options, implemented as part of these offenses. They help divide the line of scrimmage to create bigger windows to throw between those taller offensive linemen. So it's not a big concern for me. Look, he's been this height for a while. We saw him win a Heisman at Alabama and play at an extremely high level. He was the same height then, dealing with a lot of guys around him who are going to be playing at the NFL level. So not a concern. You know, as far as what he does well, just go ahead and check the box for everything. He's accurate. He throws with anticipation. He's got a strong enough arm to make all the throws. He makes off-schedule plays, but I think the thing that I look at and go, or I'm wowed by, is his awkward body throws. He's not necessarily set like you'd like to see a quarterback set his feet to make a throw, and he still delivers an accurate football. It's unbelievable to watch his tape, and if you didn't know his height or size, you wouldn't notice it. But everyone's obviously brought that about because of the combine, and everyone's concerned about it. But not a concern for me. He's a tremendous young man, high football IQ. I believe he's going to be the #1 overall pick, and I think he'll be fine at the next level.
They've had so many talented quarterbacks going through that program. Coach Saban pointing out when it comes to Young particularly, just his care on his own personal development, but really just how much he's focused on what's best for the team. And that's exactly what you're going to want in a franchise quarterback there. Now, for a while, Buckeyes quarterback C.J. Stroud, he was the favorite to be drafted first overall. Now, these QB odds, they just keep on changing.
Yeah.
Up until tomorrow, they're just going to keep on changing. But what has not changed is something I'm sure you're going to touch upon, Stroud's ability to just be so accurate, his mobility out there. So when it comes to Stroud, what are your pros and cons there?
My pros are he's the most accurate quarterback in this draft class. I think from that standpoint, he's the most polished. He's NFL ready. He throws with touch, and he's also got a strong enough arm to really impact the vertical passing game, which is what everyone's looking for at the next level. You've got to have a quarterback who can make the type of downfield throws like C.J. Stroud can make. He's obviously been able to start for a couple of seasons, and he's done it at a huge program. So he's got the leadership intangibles. He's got all those things you're looking for in that regard. You know, as far as the concerns go, one of them is when he does get pressure, he hasn't necessarily played as high of a level. Now, that being said, when he got pressure versus Georgia, he took off, he showed his mobility, he showed he's capable of that, and he made some big-time plays and saved his best performance for last. So I think he answered a lot of questions about can he do it. I think the question then becomes why he didn't do it more often throughout his college career, and obviously only he knows why that's the case. But again, he's a capable runner. He can play a role in that in the quarterback run game, but also buying time and making off-schedule throws. He's capable of that.
That's your second favorite quarterback coming into this year's draft. Now, our Pete Prisco coming out saying that this next quarterback should be drafted #1 overall. Prisco believing that the Panthers will select Will Levis with the first pick of the draft. There is so much intrigue when it comes to this particular player. What is it about him? Give me some positives and some negatives.
Yeah, look, the positives are you don't have any concern about his size. He's obviously well built, as we've seen out there on the internet. He's very well put together. He's a great athlete. I mean, not only can he be part of the quarterback run game, but he can extend plays as well. And he's got one of the strongest arms in this draft class. The ball jumps out of his hand. It really looks effortless when he's throwing the football. The problem is the tape. And when you go back and watch 2021 and try to match it with 2022, it's not the progression that you'd like to see from a quarterback who's working his way to the NFL level. 2021, he was phenomenal. I mean, he looked, and I think that's why, I kind of put him in this spot ahead of Anthony Richardson, because his tape was that good in 2021. So what changed to 2022? Well, we had a change of offensive coordinator. Rich Scangarello came in, put in an entirely new system that it only took 1 year and they moved on from him. Clearly, Mark Stoops didn't see it as a viable option moving forward. Will Levis was playing banged up. There's many weeks where he wasn't practicing when he was out there, and he was having a hard time moving around. He was getting his shoulder shot up. That was part of it. The offensive line struggled, and I don't know if it was so much necessarily the group up front, but also the scheme played a role in that. He didn't have the best talent around to throw to, and they lost. Didn't have one of their best players in Chris Rodriguez for a portion of the season that impacted the running game. They put really everything on Will Levis's shoulders. So there's reasons for why this season looked like what it looked like. The problem I have, though, is the decision making. It's one thing to be in a bad system, a bad offense, and not to be surrounded with as much talent around him. The problem is some of the throws that he forced and some of the positions that he kind of put himself into, and you do see some inconsistencies in his accuracy, but some of that comes with not necessarily knowing a system that you're playing in. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, but he's got all the tools and the tangibles. I mean, he could be phenomenal at the next level, but he does need to be in the right situation and circumstance.
It does seem like there were a lot of odds stacked against him when you look at this past year and why he might not have had that success that everyone was hoping to see from him. Now, when it comes to our next quarterback, the word potential, it's something we were just talking about, something that, a lot of people are looking at when it comes to the draft, is the potential of them to be successful at the next level. Anthony Richardson. When everyone says his name, the word potential always comes up. What is it about Richardson? What worries you about him, and what do you like from him?
Well, the things you like, are that, especially at the NFL level, is you have to have an extraordinary skill set. You have to be able to do something that not many other people can do. And his athleticism is the first thing that stands out for his size. I mean, he is a very capable runner of making a big play, whether it's a drop back pass and scrambling or in the quarterback run game. He reminds you a little bit, to me, some people will say Cam Newton, but I think he's a little more elusive and he's got a little more wiggle to him when he's running downfield. He's not quite as big as Cam was. And I also think he's a much more polished passer in that sense. Because the other thing that stands out is his ridiculous arm strength. He does have the strongest arm in this draft class. I mean, the ball just, comes out of his hands so effortlessly. So we talked about the vertical passing game. You can check that box. The questions and the concerns are 1-year starter. He's inconsistent. You see flashes and moments of him working the pocket, getting through his progression or read, and delivering an accurate throw. And then the next drive, you'll see the exact opposite. You won't see any of that. So, quarterback's a developmental position. He needs to play more in order to grow more and develop more. But there are obviously concerns about, his limited play so far, and then some of those inconsistencies you see, and then ultimately accuracy, and can you improve that at the next level? I'm a believer that you can, but you have to put Anthony Richardson in a system that plays to his skill set and not make him into something that he's not, and not try to make him play a game that he's not.
I was having a conversation with his mom before one of my games with Florida, and the mom said he has two different personalities. There's Anthony, who's like the happy, jovial, fun-loving personality, and Tony, who Anthony said was his evil twin, but that's when he's locked in focus. He tries to give a little blend of both during games, so maybe he needs to just figure out that blend a little bit better. All right, last but not least, this guy. I'm a huge fan, Hendon Hooker, just an all-star guy. 25, though, coming off that torn ACL. Pros, cons, what do you got?
I'm not bothered by the age. I mean, clearly anyone who sat down and met with him, the young man, he's very mature. He's got a high football IQ. He succeeded at Vatech, then he goes to Tennessee, and he plays even better and continues to grow as a passer. I've kind of said this to Pete Prisco. He's the better than quarterback in this draft class. He's better than you think as far as his accuracy. He's a better athlete than you think when you watch him take off and run. But the concerns are more, is it the system? It's a unique system that they run in Tennessee. You don't see many of the same reads and progressions that they're asked to do at that level. And so you see the stats and you're wowed by them, but you also have to break down the tape and go, okay, these aren't the NFL type throws that you're used to or accustomed to seeing. The other issue is the torn ACL. If you are going to take him in the first round, as I've talked about with Rick Spielman, it makes some sense because you've got that fifth-year option, so you've got more time with Hendon Hooker. However, you're probably not going to be able to see him in his rookie year, and that could be a little bit of a concern why a team might not want to make the financial obligation to him. But to me, he's first round worthy, I think, when you look at his skill set, you look at the maturity, the high football IQ, all those things. And I think there is going to be a team that might say, hey, we've got to start it for now, but we really like this young man in the future. So maybe we've got a guy who's going to kind of hold down the fort for a year before Hendon Hooker could take over.
Hooker was recently asked where he thinks he ranks among these top quarterbacks, and he said, I think I'm number one.
Every quarterback says that ever.
Did you say that?
Of course. Quarterbacks who are retired will say that right now. And look, and that's the reality is you have to have that sort of confidence in order to play at the next level. If you don't, you're never going to have a shot. So you better believe that you're the best guy in your draft class or best quarterback in the NFL when you get in there.
You are one of the best. Brady Quinn joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. You're going to have a very busy few days, so thanks for your time here. And if you want to hear more about what's going on in the NFL, getting ready for the draft, you got to join Brady, Will Brinson, and Katie Mox on the Pick Six podcast, a crew discussing Aaron Rodgers' trade to the Jets and rumors that Will Levis could be the first quarterback drafted. Check out the Pick Six pod today.